Hello and welcome to the first episode, the introduction episode of the Northern Chorus Fantasy Pints Podcast, a podcast where we'll have special guests on each week. We're going to be interviewing these guests, but the one common question is always going to be, if you could go for a beer with three musicians, past or present, who would you choose and why? I'll be joined each week by James Riley. How are you doing?
I'm great, Sean. It's an absolute pleasure to be involved, and I'm looking forward to speaking with the plethora of guests that we're going to be getting on in coming weeks, months, and possibly years, decades, centuries.
Yeah, well, who knows? And we spoke recently. We introduced James to Northern Chorus through a local cover he did. It was Mamma Mia, wasn't it, with St. Helens musicians?
Yeah, I'm a musician, kind of typically on the live music scene, but obviously with the pandemic, gigs have been sparse, if not completely non-existent. So I've taken to using that sort of creativity in a slightly different fashion, producing some covers. Produced a cover of Mamma Mia by ABBA, which is a classic and a bit of a guilty pleasure, with some friends. And it just happened to coincide with Sean sort of kickstarting his music journalism website again. So Sean briefly interviewed me about the Mamma Mia cover and the concept itself of, producing some classic covers and getting them out there. And it was from there that we kind of got on to discussing longer form content such as podcasts.
Yeah, and obviously a quick introduction for the website itself. So I was a journalism student in Huddersfield from 2013 to 16. And then I graduated and went into magazine journalism, where my editor at the time, who is still the editor of Top 10 Films, Dan Stevens, I think it was sort of his side project of doing that Top 10 Films website that gave me the idea of having something of my own, because it was trade publications we were working for. We were talking about engineering, building, so it wasn't the most enjoyable stuff to write about at the time. So I thought, let's start something. And the niche I sort of went for was a northern music. I went for northern UK music. And I thought, yeah, let's run with it. And it did really well in its first stint. I managed to interview Bez, which was probably the pinnacle of it. And that was about a year in. And I interviewed a couple of people who've gone on to quite big things. Youngblood, who's now a global artist, the likes of the Snuts, who are currently battling for #1 with Demi Lovato. And so I switched jobs, didn't have too much time anymore to do the website, so it kind of just got left. It left with no one running it, really. And then in January, I picked it back up. Towards the back end of December, and then January it really started to get going again, and it's picked up really nicely. And yeah, it's all good at the minute.
And that brings us really to today, where we sort of discussed the idea. It was actually myself. I sent a message to Sean off the back of the interview, basically to say, have you considered, long form content? I actually worded it. I'll find the message. I worded it to the effect of, I wouldn't mind coming on as a guest. And basically Sean came back and said, let's see. Here we go. I said, do you do, or are you considering longer form content like podcasts, or is it something you'd be interested in doing? Would love to be a guest and talk about all things music, commercial and local, etc. And Sean basically came back and said, it's something I've considered. There's a question which I typically ask in my interviews, which is, if you could have a pint with three people, past and present, from the music scene, who would it be and why? And we agreed it's got legs. Sean basically said he'd be up for it if I would co-host it with him, and I said, of course. and that's led us to today.
Yeah, I suppose I'd always had the idea, and it's something I put into my interviews to try and be a little bit different, because musicians get asked the same questions all the time. So I thought I'll spring this question into my interviews. This was the second time round of obviously relaunching, and yeah, it seems to go down well. But obviously, I thought podcasting not probably something that would come naturally to me, so it's probably something I'd have to get used to. So I think the idea, I think when you came along, it was a similar time into when I was having obviously the thoughts of a potential sort of podcast idea, and it was kind of perfect really, because I wouldn't have gone about it on my own. So you were the ignition.
The interesting thing about the two of us, Sean, is we've actually known each other since I think I was 7 years old. We played for the same amateur rugby club, Pilkington Rex in St Helens.
We'll not speak about the one you played for before.
Yeah, started off at a different rival club. Came over to Pilks when I was 7. Met Sean there, and then we ended up going to the same high school and in the same friendship group. And then we left school, we went to the same college, and then we split, sort of, went different paths for university, but we've ended up in the same WhatsApp group dedicated to Wigan Athletic. And
we both support Manchester United, but that's not.
Yeah, which is
we go with it. We go with it.
Yeah, which is odd, but that's where we are. So we've always been very good friends, and we've always been separately involved in the music industry down completely different paths. So I actually think that the collaboration is something that just makes perfect sense, and I don't know how we didn't think of it earlier, really.
No, but we have now, and we'll be releasing this introduction episode, of course, with episode 2, where we have a very special guest, don't we?
We do.
I'm a massive Phoenix Nights fan. I think anyone who's friends with me knows that I quote, along with the likes of Peep Show, basically any comedy that I watch, I quote a lot of Phoenix Nights. And we've got one of the most quotable Phoenix Nights characters out there. So Clinton Baptiste will be the special guest. I thought with the fantasy theme, obviously the character of Clinton Baptiste, he delves into the psychic, the supernatural world. I thought, you know what, this would be funny. I'll just send him a message. And then we weren't expecting a response, were we? It was we expected absolutely nothing back from it.
You almost sent the message as a bit of a joke, I think. So I think part of me believes that Sean sent the message to Clinton purely to screenshot it to me, as a joke to say, imagine. And lo and behold, a short time later, he agreed to come on the pod, and we'll be recording that shortly after this one. So,
yeah. And so we've got Clinton. I'm hoping we'll have a bit of Barry from Watford, who is the actor Alex Lowe's other character. We're not really sure how that's going to go, are we?
No, but we are sure that it's going to be an interesting one.
The easiest thing to do would be for me to ask him if he's turning up in character or not, but I think it will make it all for the better once we get the nice surprise on the day.
Yeah.
Mm. So that will be out, and then we're going to look at trying to get them out weekly, aren't we, after this?
Yeah, we're going to try to get a good variety of guests on, ranging from, local musicians, musicians on my level, the guys that are just out in the pubs playing cover music and stuff, to, sort of larger scale musicians, hopefully, if we can eventually get that kind of pull, as well as, the likes of completely not related to music, random guests such as paranormal medium Clinton Baptiste.
Yeah, well, I'll try and work my way through the Phoenix Nights cast, and
Peter Kay next. Peter Kay next, hopefully.
Maybe. But we'll be posting each week I'll be posting on the website socials, which is Twitter at Northern Chorus _, Instagram at Northern Chorus, and Facebook is Northern Chorus UK. And you'll be sharing on your socials as well, won't you, James? Your music socials?
Yeah, so I'll be sharing the original copy, which will be posted on Northern Chorus's sites. But you can find me on Instagram at James Riley Music. You can find me on Twitter at James Riley Music, and you can find me on Facebook at James Riley Music. There are two of us on Facebook. I'm the one that looks like me. Can't stress that enough.
That's not going to be handy for the Audible podcast, but
true. And in that respect, we are going to also be posting the video version of this podcast to a YouTube channel, TBD. More will be announced on that when we have some more detail about it. But currently, the channel does not exist.
Yeah, but as soon as this episode ends, you should go straight into the Clinton Baptiste one, which is episode 2. And then we'll see you again next week.
I'll sort of start talking. Obviously, I'll...
That'll make the intro.
That's the plate. The plate's gone.
Smash.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, look at that.
Smashing starts to the...
We're good to go. Welcome to the first episode of the Northern